I am Spartacus. I am Spartacus. I am Spartacus. No, Spartacus is Spartacus. Sit your ass down. What's up, guys? This is the Gospel according to Mark with a C. He is I, and I am he. Just taking some time to tell you exactly what's on my mind. Thank you for joining me once again, my friends. And guys, there is nothing that bothers me more than group think. Group think leads to some of the worst catastrophes throughout human history. It allows the growth of terrible things to happen when people are convinced into thinking one way to the point where they don't see those who are manipulating that, and it allows other things to happen. So, groupthink is not a good thing at all, right? So it's something that I'm always aware of. I don't care how big or how small. It always makes me raise an eyebrow, give a side eye, and in this case, make a commentary. And we're going to talk about Spider-Man Across the Universe, or Miles Morales, specifically the character. Now, when you bring up Miles Morales, chances are some gopher is going to stick their head up and say, Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Miles Morales is Miles Morales. Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Miles Morales is Miles Morales. That's the group. That's the masses. Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Miles Morales is Miles Morales. Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Miles Morales is Miles Morales. If you want to say it in the comment section, go ahead, because it really proves my point. I love a comment section of that because it just shows what I'm talking about, guys. It's just deadhead or deadheading, whatever you want to call it, at its finest. You know what I mean? Just the chorus of it just bothers me because half the people aren't really thinking about this. Now, listen, in the interest of full disclosure, I will say that I never collected the Miles Morales comic. All right. So I can't say how bad that comic is. As a matter of fact, maybe I can, because after the first Into the Spider-Verse movie, I tried to pick up a couple of Miles Morales comics to give to my son, to get him into it, because he loved the movie. We both did. We had a great time watching it. But I wasn't impressed with what I saw in the comic. So maybe the comic is dog shit. Maybe the character has been presented as dog shit. I don't know. Maybe he was presented as a knockoff Peter Parker. But I think that in the movies, they probably handled him a little bit better. He does come across as a little bit more of an individual. I wish they didn't present Peter Parker the way they did, especially in this last movie. I don't like that at all. Look, I'm a big Spider-Man fan. I love Peter Parker. As a matter of fact, I think Spider-Man is probably one of, if not the most popular character, definitely in Marvel, but comic book character in general, which is why it really doesn't come as a shock to me that the effect of Peter Parker's Spider-Man as Spider-Man and everything that he represents, with great power comes great responsibility, would actually translate all across the board. There are a lot of people who were drawn to the character of Spider-Man, myself included, so it goes across racial boundaries and genders and all of that stuff. So of course, inevitably, there was going to be, because Spider-Man has been Spider-Man for decades now. So I believe it was inevitable that there was going to be more of an influence across all of these things as reflected in the art, in the comics. All right. That thing that Spider-Man stands for could absolutely be picked up by the people who see him, by the people who are around him. So the only challenge would be, how do you present a story like that? Because we've seen, like, for example, I think it was in Joker, the movie, where the Joker, and we've seen this before in graphic novels and things like that, the Joker inspired other maniacs. Other people put on makeup and everything. They weren't the Joker, they were a Joker. You know what I mean? And in the movies, Miles Morales is presented as part of a multiverse. So there were many Spider-Mans. I mean, you see it in Across the Spider-Verse right here. There are thousands of Spider people. Miles Morales is simply one of them. So what are you going to run down every single character that you see in Across the Universe? Peter Parker is Spider-Man. That's not Spider-Man. Spider-Gwen's not Spider-Man. You know what I mean? It's like, after a while, it just becomes petty to me. Like, what's the actual story is what I'm wondering. Okay, this is a Spider-Man in the multiverse. Now, what's your story? Now, in the comic book, maybe they don't do a good job of this. All right, but in the movies, I kind of feel like they do. So it's kind of like, man, give it a rest, man. It's like Peter Parker will always be the man. Peter Parker will always be Spider-Man. All right. Miles Morales, if anything, I believe, especially after this last movie, should have gotten his own identity. Now, I want to talk about this article real quick to make my point as well that we have in Bounding Into Comics. And I love them. They've been really like going crazy these days, man. Big respect to them. And they're talking about this, and the headline is, Across the Spider-Verse directors reveal that the sequel story is a commentary on the fans who don't see Miles as Spider-Man. Now, of course, if you watch the movie, you know that this is not something that is subtle. It is directly questioned Miles Morales' place in the Spider-Man mythos. And I really respect them for that. I think they did it in a very good way. I don't think it was insulting. I think it was artistic, just like everything that goes on in that movie. It's a great artistic piece. All right, so it goes on to say, apparently unable to accept that Miles Morales' inability to fully endear himself to longtime comic book fans is based on Marvel's mishandling of his character, rather than any inherent bigotry or inability to accept the concept of a Spidey successor. The directorial team of Behind Spider-Man Across the Universe have revealed that the film's core story is a commentary on the very readers who decline to acknowledge the fledgling hero as a real Spider-Man. Now, of course, they're probably right. Like I said before, in the comic, Miles probably isn't handled the right way, and he probably should have had his own name. He should have had his own identity. To just call him Spider-Man, even though he was clearly inspired by Spider-Man, was probably a mistake. He should have had his own identity, in much the way that Dick Grayson grew up and became Nightwing to get out from under Batman's shadow. He could have went on to say, I'm a Batman. But no, he's Nightwing. I think the same thing should have been with Miles. All right, so let's see what they have to say here. And they were talking to the Nerdist. Now, when they were asked if there were any degree of the story that was meant to be a sort of commentary on the fans who don't see Miles as the trio interrupted him before he could say Spider-Man with a resounding chorus of, yes, absolutely, yeah, 100%. I mean, the idea of like canon and rule, who gets to be Spider-Man, explained Thompson and Powers. Spider-Man, you know, is definitely like a character that is owned by the audience, Thompson continued, but some of that audience like takes it so seriously and is trying to enforce and restrict. Well, Spider-Man, like I said, has been around for decades, so they're going to feel some kind of way about that. You know what I mean? So that part of it is not unbelievable. Audiences, they do have to have their opinions who love this character. Of course they do. He says, I remember when Miles Morales' first comic book came out, there are people who were rejecting Miles as a character, for their reasons. That's not how we think it should be, the director asserted. We wanted to talk directly to that We wanted to talk directly to that, almost stick it to that mentality, and really reinforce the message of no, anyone can wear the mask. And if Spider-Man is a character that is owned by the entire world should be represented in that character. All right, now you got to think about that, okay? Because that is a challenge, and I do understand exactly what he's talking about. I do agree. All right, I love Peter Parker. Peter Parker is a massive character, and that's the reason why it's going to influence other characters. It's not the typical blackwashing, I think. Now, I know a lot of people are seeing it that way, but for example, when you talk about a black Superman, I've always heard people say maybe a black Superman, but never a black Kal-El, never a black Clark Kent. This is something that I totally agree with. I hate the concept of race swapping. Batman would be the same thing. Never a black Bruce Wayne. James Bond, never a black James Bond. Just no, it doesn't work. There's no dignity in it. But Miles Morales is not Peter Parker. You're saying that Miles Morales is not Spider-Man when you should be saying Miles Morales is not Peter Parker. That's what the fight has been about. Spider-Man can be imagined as somebody else. He absolutely can. He might not be your favorite Spider-Man, but he is a Spider-Man, especially when you're talking about a multiverse. This is what I'm talking about. Thinking rather than parroting what other people have to say. Now, it's up to the writers to make this character as credible as possible. Now, are the writers doing a good job with that? That part is subjective. That part is a matter of opinion. But the actual concept that there can be a Spider-Man that is not Peter Parker, to me, is a no-brainer. Of course it can. It's just a matter of the writing. All right. And once again, when you do have a character such as Miles Morales that breaks through the way that he has, The character should have its own identity. It should have its own name. You know, something like the Scarlet Spider. Remember the Scarlet Spider came out or something like that? Arachnid, you know, just not the Black Spider, all right? You don't want to call him that or anything. You know what I mean? Black Widower. I don't know, something. But at this point, he could stand, especially with this latest story across the Spider-Verse, he could stand to have a more distinguished character from Spider-Man. All right, especially like to offset all of this parroting that's going on. Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Miles Morales is Miles Morales. Bro, okay. All right, but what I'm saying is let's use some imagination here and figure out a way to make this character work. All right, the whole Peter Darker thing too, man, is fucking stupid. All right, just cut it out. All right, somebody said it. I guess it's clever, but once again, groupthink. Everybody runs with it. All right, you didn't come up with it. The person who came up with it, big props to that person. All right, it was clever, but you know, like I said before, the whole thing is kind of played out to me. Marvel mishandled the character, granted, but what can we do now that the character is broken through? These have been great movies. Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse, they've been great. Whether you like them or not, they don't have to be classic, but they are artistically very, very well done. Stylistically, very, very well done. Even the story is engaging. All right, but you guys can get in the comment section and let me know how you feel about this. Like I said, if you want to just bomb out the comment section with Peter Parker is Spider-Man, Miles Morales is Miles Morales, go ahead, because that makes my point as well. But I know most of my viewers here, you know, and the ones who comment, because YouTube won't let me grow past you, so I love you. You're all I have. I know that you're better than that. So anyway, guys, before I completely choke up in here, I'm going to end the video. You guys can tell me how you feel about this. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. This is The Gospel According to Mark with a C. Rock on.